Hey, cut the bullshit. Let's make kicks. Firstly, I'm going to show you how to do a reverse kick, or a reverse bassline, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, a reverse bassline, very simple. It's a kick, a clubby kick, so it'll have the oomph, and then it'll have the vrr, the reverse part of the kick. If you make it properly, it sounds good. If you make it shitty, like you use shit sounds, then it'll obviously sound shit. I'll give you an example of a reverse bassline. This is something I'm working on at the moment. It's called minimize. Okay, now that was a reverse bassline. It's pretty good, if I must say so myself. This is how I made it. So that's the sound. That's the sound on its own. Basically, I laid a few samples and I made my own reverse bass with 2 instances of psi length. Basically, psi length, if you don't have it, buy it. It's $270, but it will be the best piece of gear that you can buy for hard style. So if you're into making hard style beats, if you're into like pretty much any music, psi length is a must. If you want to make fat leads, if you want to make kicks, I make all my kicks and leads and basses and pretty much everything in psi length. So get it. Okay, basically I'm just going to give you a little rundown of what I've got. I got this sample. So basically just a little slap. This sample. Now, if you probably can't hear it properly in YouTube because, you know, it's pretty shit quality, but that is a very deep kind of floor kick with a little bit of punch. So I've EQ'd it, but let me bypass everything in EQ so you can hear the original sample. So basically, you know, not EQ'd, it's got a little bit of tick. It's got a bit of a tick to it. EQ'd, it's, you know, you can hear less of the attack, and it's more like gives it the oomph that your kick needs. Okay, this I'm actually not using. This was a layered sub bass. I never end up using it because, you know, it gives it too much bass. Now, that's another kick that's layered on top. Basically, it's a kick that, let me bypass everything and show you how. So it's kind of like a really ticky kind of kick. Basically, I put a bit of pogo on it. Basically, pogo, what it does is it inverses the kick and squashes it against itself. So if you haven't, you know, worked with that before, please do. Gives it a really cool kind of like really deep sound. Okay, so 3 samples for the actual talk, and then it's the reverse bassline. Basically, it sounds like that. Now you need to EQ quite a lot to get the right amount of sub bass, right amount of lower bass, and right amount of mids, and you need the right amount of high frequencies. So basically, this is how I've EQ'd it. So you look. Most people think that to have a good sub bass, you need to have a lot of sub bass, but you don't. I've actually EQ'd the sub bass out of it, the very, very low sub bass at about 29 hertz, and then EQ'd a little bit down at about, you know, 126. This is relatively straight. It's got a little curve here, but I've actually taken out some of the 3000 hertz and around there with a very medium Q, and I've actually left the high frequencies in it to give it that kind of sizzle. It gives it that kind of rough thing. Let me bypass it and show you how it sounds before EQ. So it just sounds like there's a lot more mids. You probably can't hear it through YouTube, but you can definitely hear it when you're trying to combine kicks together. Alright, now combining all of them together. And that's the kick. Now basically what you want to do is, after you EQ all the elements together and it's sounding good, now you need to spend maybe 2-3 hours to get this combination. But trust me, you need to have the right amount of certain frequencies to make a really heavy kick. And in the end, what you need to do is you should go to File, go to Export, make it a WAV file, and then import the WAV file back in. And then look, you don't need to use effects anymore. That way you can have more freedom. Woo! Alright, well that's a very, very short lowdown on reverse kick. But another good thing about reverse bass lines is they filter really well. So if you ever heard of Headhunters or a Scope DJ track, it's or any kind of new track these days, you'll hear some of this. And when you use that on the last bar of a, I don't know what it's called, but a last kind of thing, it sounds really cool. So that's, typical Wild Styles kind of shit. But basically, all you need to do is play each, clone the actual bass and then EQ these separately. So I've EQ'd this with a bypass, take some bass, take some things out of it. So, it gives it that telephone kind of sound. And then with the second one, I've just EQ'd it a little bit downer so it has a little bit more bass. So together they're like, yeah, gives it a little good touch to the track. And then when you filter it completely, it sounds like this. So that's good for like build-ups and stuff. I'll show you something. So yeah, the filtered kick is a good transition. I mean, it's professional, it sounds good, it's easy to make, and basically it's just, put a high pass filter on it or just filter it yourself with an EQ. But yeah, there's lots of different types of reverse bass lines. So I'm just gonna make this short and sweet so I can get on to my next tutorial, which is new style. Is most people wanna make those kinds. But yeah, very simple. Alright, thank you.